I've just been through a very rigorous interview recruitment process for a major iconic organisation in Australia. And I helped guide a very senior business executive who was very well qualified for the position, but just didn't feel he was completely set up for success in regard to interviewing. It was an area that he recognised he did not have a lot of practice or experience in doing, and really wanted to put his best foot forward for this recruitment process. The recruitment process itself was managed by a very high profile executive search firm, so there was a level of rigor about the process from beginning to end. There was a lot of feedback being provided, but nonetheless you really had to do a lot of deep strategy and thinking about your key messages and how you were going to convey your value proposition to the employer. The employer asked this individual to do a number of presentations to a recruitment panel, and these were unfortunately done over Zoom or a conference call mechanism. And the challenge with that is it's often really hard to convey, build rapport easily, convey a level of energy. And one of the pieces of feedback we had during the recruitment process at one point was that the candidate lacked energy. And this was despite the fact that we had sort of counseled the candidate to stand up rather than sit during the interview process, look to camera, and really sort of try and use a lot of passionate, language and so on. And even so, it was still very hard to convey that energy over the screen. A number of times when we did our practice runs and we did our mock interview sessions with this individual, we would just find that the messaging was good, but it maybe was not in the right order. And the emphasis was not being placed on the key messages that the employer would be interested in. And we embarked on a technique which enabled us to really bring home 2 or 3 key points at the beginning and the end of each interview, so that the employer was left with a very strong impression of this candidate. Now, that proved to be crucial because there were 2 high quality candidates in the end vying for the position. So it was a neck and neck race, equally qualified candidates, and it was really about getting it over the line. And so when you are in a highly competitive recruitment process, it's absolutely crucial that your key messages come across, your value proposition comes across, and at the same time you've got to convey a sense of rapport, building the rapport with the individuals on the other side of the camera. And you have to really convince people that you would fit in with the culture, and you've got the personal dynamics really to take a role forward. This was a very complex role, a lot of challenges, potentially a lot of pitfalls. Throughout the process, we had to also just keep reminding ourselves, do we really want this opportunity? Is it the right opportunity? And really think those things through, because it's a two-way street at this level. You have to make sure you're making the right career decisions. And in some respects, a really long and complicated recruitment process has some benefits to a candidate, because you can really get to know the organisation quite well. You get quite a few opportunities yourself to ask questions and to really sort of, make a really good, informed, quality decision. Overall, I would say without a shadow of a doubt, this interview preparation made the difference. I had a fantastic, one of those beautiful little emails after the individual got the job and it's been announced in the market, and I got a beautiful thank you, which, speaks a lot to this individual. This individual is very humble, very down to earth, very grounded individual, but an absolute superstar, and just needed that competitive edge during the recruitment process. So if that sounds like you, if you have a really important interview process coming up, you must consider engaging formal interview preparation services. It can make the difference between getting the job. Don't go these processes alone. It is just one of those times where you have to set your ego aside. You have to assume you can get preparation to a certain point by yourself, but you need that independent viewpoint, someone saying, no, those points are not landing. that's not strong enough, that way you've structured that answer isn't quite right. Let's rethink your presentation. What are the 3 key points we're going to try and land on? What does that individual on the other side of the table, what would be concerning them the most? What could the possible objections be to your candidacy? How are we going to handle those? And that's the type of detail you have to get into for senior executive roles. So I'd love to have a talk to you. I really thrive on these processes. I love them. I love getting into the trenches and really supporting a senior executive candidate, because I know the candidate who interviews the best gets the job. It happens every single time. It's worth the investment.